Darren Tuttle here. It's storm season in Oklahoma, and with that comes torrential rain, high winds, and hail. To protect your home and your family from these threats, the one roofing company you should trust is Ferguson Roof Systems. They've been providing the best in roofing services for nearly half a century. Ferguson is Oklahoma's full-service roofing company, certified with an A+ Better Business Bureau rating and a 5-star rating on Google. And with Ferguson now offering Class 4 impact-resistant shingles, now is the time to trust them with your home's roof. Get started today at FergusonRoofSystems.com.
Hey there, Meteorologist Darren Tuttle with you. It is June 1st, almost 12 o'clock, so it's been a few days since you've seen me, and that is unprecedented. Why? Because we just went through almost the entire month of May without tornadoes. We only had a couple of days, and that was it, and that is impressive. It's unheard of. Usually that is the peak of our severe weather season and the peak of our tornado season, and that did not happen. So I don't think many of you are going to complain. I'm certainly not. It was nice to get the break when I normally have to go work. So that was good for me as well as good for you. I think everybody wins in that situation. So I took a little time off to enjoy the little brief break, which was good. I see you guys in the house here on Facebook, so welcome to the party. Renee, no, you were right on time. Jason, yeah, I am finally a top fan of AT's weather. So if you missed my post the other day, Facebook rewarded me as a top fan finally. I don't know what took it so long. I've been here for a long time. I don't know, man. Facebook does some really weird things, so it is what it is. Jeremy, no, you're in the house. David, good to see you. Thank you for the stars, gentlemen. Rumble out there, thanks again for tuning in. If you guys do like the Rumble platform and you are on Facebook or YouTube and you're getting sick of either one, there's another option. That's Rumble. At some point, Gab TV is supposed to be live. They were supposed to do it this year, but they just don't have enough funding yet, I don't think, to make it happen. Eventually, that'll be on the docket. Brigitte, good to see you. Jamie's in the house. Thank you for some stars. And Ron. And then those of you folks that may be joining me that normally watch on Twitter, there is no free speech. Just so you know, there is no free speech on any platform other than Gab. Gab, you can pretty much say what you want as long as it doesn't violate the Constitution. But any other platform, no, man. Their algorithms are very picky. They'll pick out certain words and flag it. So you can't speak in metaphors. You can't speak non-literally. The algorithms will take you as literal. So I got the boot on Twitter. So we'll see. I filed the appeal. And appeal process goes to an automatic rejection. So it's automatically rejected within seconds. I think you have to keep doing that, and eventually it'll flag it, and then a human actually has to look at it and then intervene. So we'll see if I get the Twitter account back. If I don't, honestly, I don't care. That was my trash platform anyway. I didn't really care much about it. So anyway, if I get it back, great. If I don't, who cares? All right, so let's take a look outside. We have some clouds building out there. We do have some showers and thunderstorms that are returning back into central Oklahoma and other parts of the state. It's very hit and miss, just so you know. This is what makes forecasting this time of year kind of difficult. It's almost like a summer pattern where you get a forecaster that says isolated showers and thunderstorms or 20% chance of rain. And the reason isn't not so much that there's a confidence level in there that's going to rain. It's just there's no set focus for it. In other words, it is a total chaotic, anywhere is fair game pattern. You might get clouds every day, not get a single drop, while your neighbor 10 streets down gets pummeled. It's one of those deals. It's a freak thing. All you can do is make alternate plans in case your outdoor activities get messed up. But that's just kind of the way it is when you have a situation like this, where you don't have what we call a lot of brute forcing. It's a lot of subtle just lift from heat and moisture that's in the atmosphere. All right, so we do look at the radar view here in central Oklahoma. We do have some bubbling up out there. Those clouds I was pointing out to the west there on AT's weather cam. If we look out here in the western parts of the metro, Yukon, El Reno, Minco, Union City, you can see some of these little light showers bubbling up. They get a little heavy up around the Cashin area. There's some around Kingfisher, Hennessy, and Loyal. If you go way up here in northern Oklahoma, Red Rock from north of you guys to Billings to Blackwell, Ponca City, there are some showers and even some rumbles of thunder, so some lightning associated with these. None of this is severe, nor is it really expected to be. This type of pattern, it's going to be hard to do that. Occasional brief downburst of wind, but usually under severe limits. From Pink to Brooksville to St. Louis to Asher and Tribby, There's some showers there, and also down around Pauls Valley. Down around Davis and Dotary and Tishomingo, even all the way down to Ardmore, a few showers there. So a gentleman asked me, is Ardmore looking dry on Thursday? It's supposed to. Well, so much for that idea. But you can see there's no rhyme or reason. And that's the frustrating part as a forecaster. I'd like to tell you exactly whose house can get wet. It just ain't possible. Some stuff out here in southwest Oklahoma as well. So that's a little round robin, what's going on across the state. If you look at the satellite viewpoint, you can see how the movement is kind of just a sort of a west to east fashion, but also a south to north fashion with moisture that kind of highlights. You can see the bubbling cumulus clouds, those little white tops you see that show up on the map. That as we get into the warmer temperatures of the afternoon, into the 80s, that starts to work on that moisture and humidity. Speaking of which, here at noontime, we do have temperatures into the 80s across the eastern half of the state, but those clouds a little thicker out west, so therefore you have some temperatures a little bit cooler in the 70s. Not much of a wind out there. It's from the south, maybe gust up to around 15 or so in some areas. A little windier out in the Panhandle region. Now, where has the rain been over the last 2 weeks? You have to look out in western Oklahoma. There's been some spots out here. They've had 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 inches of rain. These little hot little spots where it turns from orange to kind of a red shading. That's anywhere from 4 to 5 to 6 inches of rainfall out here in the Panhandle. They've had around 8 inches of rain in some of these little hot spot areas. Eastern Oklahoma, though, it's kind of hit or miss. Sometimes you're in a zone where you get basically a dusting or a few sprinkles, and then dusting. I don't know if I ever said dusting with a form of rain. It's usually snow, but my brain doesn't seem to work today. Otherwise, you do get some spots here in the green, which is up around, 2.5, maybe 3 inches. So it's kind of the way the pattern has gone, but you can look right in central Oklahoma. This is Oklahoma County right here in the middle. You see Spencer and who else we got? It pops up here. This little mesonet station is not showing. All right, we'll show Norman instead. But you can see it in this little line, pretty much right along I-35. West of the line, you got some rain. East of the line is a little more spotty. So the metro kind of cut in half as far as precipitation goes. We're still going to kind of keep this pattern, though, for the rain. Most of it out in the western half of the state again versus the eastern half. There'll still be some east of 35, but again, we're still stuck in this rut. If you look out in the severe weather aspect from the Storm Prediction Center, a little bit of action out here in Texas for today and also for tomorrow on the Panhandle. Otherwise, those guys are bored for the end of May, 1st of June. There's still usually a lot of severe weather that goes on this time of the year up there about mid-June, and it's just not happening. Well, let's take a look at how the atmosphere will progress. And now this is going to be interesting. This is the model forecast, which will show you how the atmosphere develops with time with the rainfall. And you can see how the models love the Panhandle region of Texas and Oklahoma. But you also notice they don't really pick up on those showers and those thunder showers that are out there now. And they won't. They're terrible. They can't get this pattern right because of what I told you. There's not enough surface triggers for them to focus on. So it knows it's unstable, but it doesn't know where to put the rain as a result. So you still have to have some human intervention, believe it or not. Just at least to let you know they won't be dry like the models thought it would be. Let's see. So here's Thursday afternoon. It's finally picking up a little bit of action up here in central northern Oklahoma, on the Panhandle, and out western Oklahoma through the evening hours. So if you have any outdoor plans, again, just keep that in mind. There'll be some spotty thunderstorms and showers around. Okay, so things get quiet again this evening, but sometimes in the overnight hours, you get a little secondary batch. Models favor northwest Oklahoma during this time. And then as we head into Friday, how's that looking for you? More of a signal out of the Panhandle for showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon on Friday. Now, these actually have a chance to move east during the evening hours and hold together a little bit better. So we might have some borderline severe storms. In other words, again, you have to have about 1-inch size hail or 58 mile per hour winds. We might just get there in some cases or just stay underneath it. But needless to say, again, no tornadoes. That would be here for the evening hours on Friday. So if you have any Friday evening plans out here in western Oklahoma, keep that in mind. Now, as we head into the later evening, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, you do see this cluster moves here into central Oklahoma. Another cluster out here in the west appears to try to move into our area as well. Starts to fall apart. A lot of them have been. And the reason for that is there's not a whole lot of overnight instability to work with. In other words, most of it's daytime from daytime heating. So that means that the cap builds overnight and we lose the sun, we lose the heating, and so the atmosphere is just not as primed to keep them going. So they do have a tendency to fall apart around the midnight hour onward. You might be able to hear the kids in the background. That's Penelope trying to get Larry's bone or whatever he's got. So that's what that's about. All right, this is Saturday morning. We will have some additional thunderstorms around, some showers, believe it or not. So if you have any plans over the weekend to start off your Saturday, does look like it's going to be a little wet along the I-35 corridor. And now we have eastern half of Oklahoma to get some action. So unfortunately, our weekend will probably have a little bit more of the rain department than we've had the last few days. So if you have any outdoor plans this weekend, just make sure you have some alternate, abilities to go indoors. But that signal is there for central and eastern Oklahoma. It's not a very strong signal. In other words, not everybody's going to get wet, but enough of you will be. And we go into the after that period. Let me shift into a longer period for Sunday. Let's see. Let's drive this on over. Okay, so here's Sunday, 10 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock, 4. So you still see the rain signal is still there. It's still a scattered signal. But in other words, if you were trying to hope to get a lot of sun for the weekend, hit the pool, hit the lake, there might be a couple lightning strikes out there you have to be aware of. Use my weather app, AT's Weather to Go. It's free on Apple and Google Play, and it will let you know if there's lightning in the area or a storm approaching. Okay, so let's take a look here at the rainfall amounts, and you can see up to around 2 inches plus out here in the Panhandle area, parts of northwest Oklahoma. This is a model blend. You can see how it kind of puts the brakes on once it gets to the I-35 corridor, and then not as whole lot out here in eastern Oklahoma. This is through Saturday morning. So let's extend this on into the rest of the weekend. So let's go through Sunday evening, for example. And you can see it does include a little bit of eastern Oklahoma. So there is going to be some rain, again, out in eastern Oklahoma, but obviously more of it out to the west. And there's that little enhancement here in central Oklahoma for Saturday and Sunday. Some amounts, you can get some pretty good rainfall this time of the year. You can get up around 1 to 2 inches pretty quickly. But it's kind of feast or famine, because you can see, here's an example. Like in this little spot here, looks like around Blanchard or something, 3/4 of an inch. But if you go up here to say, Goldsby or South Oklahoma City, you're at almost double that, right? 1.3. So that's just kind of an example of how you can have a wild swing in the rainfall bucket. All right, temperature-wise, how's that looking for the weekend? Well, today, 80s out there, kind of like what we have currently. There has been some 90s sneaking in, but that's normal, right? We're in June. All right, let's go on into Friday. So once again, upper, mid-80s. A little bit more on the humid side, of course. Let's see. Of course, nighttime, we're back in the 60s and 70s. And let's go back to Saturday. And it should be a rinse and repeat. Now, you do see a difference here in the temperatures. See some 80s out in the east. Now, watch central Oklahoma. You see how we never really get really hot? Because all this colors you see that gets all discombobulated, that's in reference to the showers and the clouds and the thunderstorms that develop. So that kind of obviously rain cools you down. So that's the model's trying to show you how your temperatures can vary quite a bit when you do get some rainfall. And then I'll zip through Sunday. It should be basically the same. I don't anticipate anything significant. Probably lots of 80s with some 70s. Let's see, right here. Let's go back a couple hours. 4 o'clock. So there you go. 80s and 70s, again, depending on the rainfall and cloud cover and that kind of deal. So that's kind of how your weekend's going to look. Winds, light, all that kind of stuff. Temperatures over the next few days will be into the mid-80s long term. So as far as any dramatic heat waves, that's not going to happen. As far as the actual pattern is concerned, it stays unsettled, and it stays pretty locked into a western half of the state, primarily for rainfall with, sprinkles and scattered showers and occasional thunderstorm across the east. So it's a good pattern to be in because we do need the rainfall going to summer. I can tell you long term, that was looking at the indices that we look at, when we talk about El Nino and La Nina and the PDO and NAO, all these little oscillations that are attached to the ocean. So the ocean is a huge driver of the weather across the globe. Everything's connected. When we look at all these indices historically, we try to pattern match, supposedly, because long-term forecasting is always fun, but supposedly it's going to be a little cooler on the summer and a little wetter on this part of the country. So that should mean that our summer won't be as brutal, won't be as hot. And so I had a bet at work. I told the guys, I said, I don't think we'll hit 100 degrees this year. I think we'll be in the upper 90s, like 99 a few times, but I don't think we'll hit 100. So everybody was like, ooh, that's brave. That's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see how that plays out. I love that meme, by the way. So that's what I got here for you. And I know the farmers out there, they probably wrote off the wheat crop already, because of the drought out in western Oklahoma. And the ones that are trying to salvage what's left, the rain's been kind of messing you up. And if you wait too much longer, you might get too much rain where your equipment gets stuck. So I'm not a farmer, but I do know that some of the intricacies out there in western Oklahoma to deal with. So I know it's unfortunately, sometimes this happens. You get this pattern that finally breaks for a drought pattern, and when it does, it just rains and won't stop. And it's great, but it's the wrong place, wrong time, to kind of do any good. It'll help us out for the summer and then some. And then since the pattern is changing globally, out of the La Nina into El Nino, we'll have more of our typical normal type, pattern here for Oklahoma. So in other words, the farmers will be much better over the next few years than they did the last 3 or 4. So that's some good news. All right, so that was everything I had here for you. That was an update. That'll take you in through the weekend, kind of a sneak peek of what's coming long term. There is still going to be a risk of severe weather. When we do look long term toward about the middle of June, the pattern will change a bit, become more active, it seems like. Now, we'll tell you this. We normally continue our severe weather pattern through about the middle of June, all right? So it's like a March 15th to June 15th, roughly. And then it kind of just shuts off. Well, that may extend a little bit for the rest of June into our July 4th time period. What we need is wind shear in the atmosphere, and for whatever reason, again, things are messed up right now, but they should return to semi-normal during that period. So I do expect a last hurrah of severe weather for the last couple weeks of June. And there'll probably be a few tornadoes in there, and we'll probably get some MCSs, which are those mesoscale convective complexes, which produce sometimes some damaging wind. We call them squall lines. So we'll have a few of those events, because that also brings us a lot of the good rainfall. But that's standard, that's normal. And then those kind of things may happen on in through July as well. So even though they do come sometimes with severe weather, they do bring us a lot of good rain for the summer months. So that's helpful. I think that's about it. So, again, thank you guys for the stars on Facebook. Always appreciate your support in donating in that fashion. So this is a crowdsourced operation. So you guys are awesome. So, Mary, thank you also. I see you in there. So, yeah, it is funny because I see you, Jessica, you can have thunder right in the morning when you wake up at 7 a.m., when you normally get it in the afternoon. And you can have it in the afternoon, too. Or you can have it at lunchtime. There is no rhyme or reason. Ashley. True. But listen to this. All right, so the liberal conservative argument aside on Twitter, Ashley was making a joke about that. Believe it or not, most of the weather community is liberal. And I care less, whatever. But it's just ironic because on Twitter, where I get a lot of my weather information, was actually pretty decent. It's shared by a lot of liberal mindsets. I just find that odd. I didn't know that, of course, prior to social media. You never know who's conservative, who's liberal, until you follow them on social media, and then you can tell just by whatever they post, usually. And in that case, I was like, whoa, 75% of all weather people are liberals. Like, didn't know that. So anyway, that's just a little fun fact that I figured out just by following a ton of accounts. But it's a good source of weather information, which is why I actually was on Twitter. Other than that, it's it's an interesting platform. But I can complain about either one of them. I can complain about Facebook till I'm blue in the face. Rumble, they're still getting going. Locals, I'm actually on Locals. So if you guys are familiar with Locals, I do have an account there. Just haven't really done much with it. Just because there's so many social media platforms, I'm like, I'm exhausted trying to keep up with all of them. But I am on that, so maybe I'll start promoting that more and doing some content there. But those that do want to follow me and support me financially on all those accounts, it's Locals, which ties into Rumble. Then there's Patreon and Subscribestar, which kind of fell by the wayside. It's still there, but it didn't do much. But there's a Patreon, kind of was the early version of where you can donate to your creators. Then of course Facebook Star with Facebook fan subscriptions. YouTube now has a subscription model, so they're all very similar now. They're not too dissimilar in that aspect. Gab, there's no there's not a standard subscription service, but you can use Gab Pay, which is like an alternative payment system. It's kind of like PayPal or Venmo. So those that maybe have been banned on one of those platforms for whatever reason, because of politics or something, you can use Gab Pay because they don't ban you for that. So that's another option. It's the landscape's like the wild, wild west. I mean, you guys may not know all this, but I got to follow all of it because I'm tied into it, and it's exhausting. So, anyway, there's some options out there if you look around, but you can follow me on any of those platforms and support me in any of those if you choose, and I appreciate that. So, all right, well, that is it for me. I'm gonna get out of here. I hope you guys have the rest of a great Thursday and a good Friday and a good weekend. Hope you had a great Memorial Day. Again, thanks for everybody that served this country and that continue to serve this country during some really interesting times. So, all right, that's it for me. You guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk again soon. Take care.